Okay, so here we have my Mr Jinx. He's only a baby, so this setup is very basic. It's just, obviously I'll be adding more in now, but just in the process of cleaning out his baby bin. So it's a little quarantine setup. He'll be in here for another 10 weeks. I've had him for 2 weeks. And the idea with this is to basically closely monitor his health, his feeding, basically so I know exactly what's going on while he's a baby growing into an adult. So he's a little albino. He's a cheeky little character, he is. Mr Jinx. So I've had him for 2 weeks. Now with this I just have a plastic tub with some holes that I've punched in. Plenty of holes for aeration. We have his warm hide here, the log, his humid hide here with some sphagnum moss. The substrate is very simple, just paper towel. That's all that's needed for a baby gecko. The more complex bioactive earth mix, that can come later on in time when he gets older. But this is all that's required for a baby gecko. So I'm just going to add a little climbing piece of wood for him in there, and then his food dish over here, that's his worm dish, and then we have a calci dish. Just pop that there, and his water dish. Which is just there. And then finally we have his cool hide. It's important to give leopard geckos lots of places to hide. The basic minimum is to have a warm hide and a humid hide and a cool hide. I'll explain that in a moment, and I'll explain the sort of the temperatures and that sort of thing in a moment as well. I'm going to add a little bit of decor when he moves from his little corner. There's a little bit of decor that goes over here. Basically just makes it a little bit more interesting for him. He's a cutie, he is. And that is basically it. Now, heating, thermostats, all of that. Now for this quarantine setup, this can also, hopefully I won't have to use it as a hospital bin, but you know, if God forbid, he becomes unwell, I can move him into here to monitor him. Now here I have a mat thermostat, an under tank heater with the sensor probe directly on top of the mat. Now using heat mats is controversial because they only give surface heat, they don't give deep heat, which is provided by basking lights or deep heat projectors. But for this basic setup, the temperature needs to be warm side 25, 26, 27, or a little bit over it can be, but it's fine if it's about 26, and this provides that on the warm side. On the cool side it can get to about 22, which is fine, Cool side temperatures can range from about 21 to 24. So, and then the humid area is in the middle. So I will I'm just going to pop this camera to the side for a second while I get him set up. So we have, let's whack the light on here. Now, the left side of this enclosure is the warm zone. The centre side is the humid zone with its humid hide, and then we have the cool zone where his water dish is placed and his cool hide. Now, these little probes are thermometer sensors, so they measure the temperatures in the enclosure. So we have one measuring the temperature for the cool side, and like I said, oh, there he is popping out saying hello. For the cool side, temperature needs to be sort of 21 to 24. Humid side is about 24, 25, and then the warm side about 26, ideally 27, for this basic setup. We also have a hygrometer, which is to measure the humidity. Now, the hygrometer is this little thing here. Now, because I've just readjusted and cleaned and put the hygrometer back, the humidity there might be a little bit high, but that will settle. Ideally, the humidity for a leopard gecko's enclosure needs to be sort of between 30, 45 max. If it gets too humid, it can cause respiratory problems for the gecko. There he is. There, look. He's having a good explore around his clean house. And then we have this thermometer, digital thermometer. Highly recommend. It's a must, really, to get a digital thermometer because they do accurately measure the temperature. So this is measuring the warm side, and then if I just push this button here, and then we have the cool side temperature there. So the temperatures at the moment are fine for what he needs for this basic enclosure. Now, every heat source has to be connected to a thermostat for safety, in case to stop the overheating. Let's get these wires shuffled. Now this wire here, this one here, that's the thermostat sensor probe, which is placed directly on top of the heat mat. And the heat mat is a 12-watt heat source, and it covers about a third of the bottom of his enclosure. It's placed underneath a plastic tab. Now, these are controversial, but like I say, for this basic setup, it's just what I need, really. When I upgrade him to a glass terrarium, he's having a nice relax in his cool hide there now. When I upgrade to a glass terrarium, then I'll get rid of the heat mat and obviously have the spotlight and shade dweller, which I've just got in storage over there for now. And temperatures can go up a little bit to maybe 30 degrees. So the heat mat is controlled by this mat stat here, thermostat, which is set to 30 degrees, which is ideal really for a leopard gecko. And because it's a basic setup, obviously there is a thermal gradient happening right now between the warm end and the cool end, and then we have the humid zone. Not quite as effective as a proper vivarium or terrarium, which can contain the heat more, therefore adding to that thermal gradient. But for this basic setup, it's all that's needed. While he's in quarantine, while I'm closely keeping an eye on his, while he's getting checked up, his baby checkups, and it's just part of the process, really. I don't want to stress him out too much now, putting him into a full enclosure. He's not an adult yet, and he's quite happy in there. I've had him for 2 weeks now. He's looking healthy. He's eating really well. So all is looking good so far. So that's a basic setup. You can go even more basic than that. Some people even use the inners of toilet roll. But I wanted something a bit more decorative than that, so I've used the wooden stick in there. But paper towels as a substrate is just perfect because it's easy to clean, easy to replace, and it's so cheap to buy as well. But when I upgrade, I'm going to go bioactive, so there will be another video on that setup in future, but that's further down the line. For now, he is just settling in, having an explore around. It'll very shortly be feeding time, which will be fun. Always is fun when he feeds. So for now, over and out.